Alright guys, I am finally up and running, as it's now time to get back to reviewing all the games I've played in my life. Part 3, which hopefully will be the last one, as I still got like 130 something games to go as you see the list. Let me make a bigger screen. There we go. So yeah, let's see. Last I left off as like way down here. Yeah, like a third or so to go. It's well over 100 something. So hoping to get it wrapped up tonight. I'm gonna force myself to finish it because I got all of these still to go. Got quite a long list to go, as you can see, all the way up here. But the higher we go up, the less longer it will take. Let's see, right here, and of course the highest score right now is still the Game of Life. I'll tell you what I think. It's retarded. And wait for Jax and others to defend it on the commentary server or whatever, because they have before. Remember that, Aaron. So anyways, the highest scoring game so far on my list was the Game of Life at 100, which is the first one in the series. And you're going to probably see a lot of them coming up very soon. And second place was, I think it was Mario Party Mario Party Superstars, which was 95. So we'll see how many zeros and hundreds and more are going to come up, as the higher we go up in this list, the more higher scores we're going to get, because these are the games I usually played in my entire life. Alright, so anyways, as we start off, next on the list was Civilization 3, which is the third version of Civilization. It came out in 2001. The graphics are, I know it's 2001, but the graphics are not necessarily the best even for that era, and it's pretty challenging, but I have figured out somewhat, because in this game, you have to expand a lot more than you normally would in Civilization games. Like, you have to really, really, really quickly expand in order to have any chance at the beginning part of the game. Combat-wise, though, it's tough. Like, combat-wise, the game, in my experience, the series gets harder and harder as each game goes on. Whereas in the first two games, as long as you keep spamming out catapults, you can just destroy everyone from industrial might, basically. But this one was still pretty good, so I'd give it... That's a pretty high score for it. I didn't think it was going to be that high, an 86. I'd probably give it a 78 right now. Alright. Super Mario 64 DS. It's the remastered version of Super Mario 64 for the DS, where you can play as Mario, Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario. There's some new stuff to it as well, but overall, I didn't really like it as much compared to the original. Like, I didn't like all the changes they did, and I didn't like the controls on the DS. So I have to give it a lower score, just a 70. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team. I already talked about it before, and you all saw me play the original, the remastered version for the Switch that I've been doing a playthrough of since last year. This one is, well, the whole game, the Mystery Dungeon, the first one, is hard as fuck. I think the game would have been a lot better if they kept the original setup for like Pokemon in terms of like leveling up and battling all that. If the game was exactly like the main series game but played with like a Mystery Dungeon setting, I think the game would have been perfect. But unfortunately it's not. So I'm gonna have to give it, before I give it a score, let's see, what did I give the remix? Because I'm gonna give the remix version a lot better score. 75. Okay, so I knew the score was gonna put in by one to make 100% sure I didn't made it higher. So here we go. Kind of a low score in the community, I'm surprised by. Just a 73. Like, the game would be much better if it was just easier. And that's going to be a major default for me when it comes to reviews if the game is hard. Pokemon Uranium! Like one of the most famous Pokemon hacks ever. And the game is really good. It's quite challenging at times too. Although, and the plot is really, really dark, which is awesome since they don't really do that in the Pokemon universe. The two things I don't like is, I don't like that they have real Pokemon mixed together with Fakemon. I hate that when they do that in fan-made Pokemon games. One or the other. Either all real Pokemon or only Fakemon. Don't mix them up together. I hate that immensely when they did that. And I don't like how that game is really, really painful when it comes to grinding up a new team. The best place to train, and it's like almost near the end of the game with that dojo. That was a stupid idea. They should have added that all over the place to make it much easier. But the game is really damn good. 80 score, I'm going to go all the way up to 85. It would be a lot higher if it just was easier in terms of grinding up a new team. Age of History 2, it's like the poor man's version of Civilization and Vicky 2 on your phone, that game is really, really difficult as well. And I still don't understand the combat of it for like 2 years now plus playing it. It basically just comes down to have as much money as possible, building up as big of an army as possible, but then no matter what, whoever you attack, like, always are going to have more troops than you no matter what, and it's really stupid. Like, I fight countries that I know for a fact that they can't afford the amount of troops they're building, yet they build them just like that, and it's really annoying. Diplomacy is largely garbage in this game. Like, you can't ever get allies, or, like, really difficult and stuff like that, so it's kind of, like, pointless. At least there's an exploit in the game where you could trade countries to attack each other. So the goal is to have the country you want to fight have someone else declare war on them, weaken each other. That way you can go to war with them and just go in and take them out while they're weak. And maybe the other one too. That's usually the scummy strategy, but that's the only way it works on it so far, at least for me. If it was easier to be a higher score, I would just give it a 75 for now. But the one thing I do like, actually, you know what? I'll give it a 78 because I'll add on this good thing about it, is that the game lets you make, like, custom nations and even customizes your own nation too, which is something that Vicky 2 and EU4 later on don't really do, and that's something I really, really would like. All right. All right, next on the list, Tonka Construction. I mentioned the Tonka games, I believe in part 2 or something like that. It's another one of those Tonka games. This one involves building up Tonka Town and all that. There's a sequel that came out in 1999, which is much better. I have no idea if I got to that yet on this list. Let's see what I gave the Tonka ones. Oops, spelled it wrong. I gave it... Okay, Tonka Construction 2 is coming up still. 75. That one, Tonka Construction, even though I haven't said I played it the most, I don't think I actually did, because that was like the oldest and the first one of the series I played, but haven't been able to play much because the disc either disappeared or the game just stopped working. But it's going to get at least a 75. It's fun. It's one of those edutainment games in the 90s, which I had a lot of growing up. So now, let's go back down. Oop, overshot it. Here we go. Test Drive Eve of Destruction. I mentioned this. I can't remember what early time it was, but I mentioned it. It's a racing game where it takes place like in Demolition Derby, like that. It's like, oh, now I remember what I said. It's like the prequel to Wreckfest. This is Wreckfest, basically, is the successor of. This game is really, really fun. The story, though, is kind of challenging, especially at the end, because they have this really annoying thing where cars have permanent damage in the game, where no matter how much you fix them after like each event off screen, they can't be fully fixed up, so it goes all the way down to 50%. So you can have a car at its worst can only have 50% health going into each race, and so you therefore have to buy new cars and build them all up and all that. And a lot of those stuff later on gets really challenging, so it's like kind of like stuck in terms of making money because you can't build any new cars and all that because they're too damaged. Wow, only a 68? Nah, that's way too low. Give it an 80. I'm surprised they didn't have a community score. That game was fun. Madden 11 is the 2010 version of Madden 10. Damn it, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, the presentation I liked more on 11 and 10, because Madden 11 is not any different really from 10 if you play on the Xbox 360 like I did. But I overall didn't like it as much as Madden 10, because I really love 10. But it would still get a good score. Command Conquer Red Alert. It looks like free because it's 2008, but I need to make sure. Yep, Command Conquer Red Alert free. Okay. Alright, so this was the third and final version of the Command Conquer Red Alert universe of the Command Conquer games. It takes place right after Red Alert 2, where it's an alternate World War 3, where, remember what I said in the original Command Conquer Red Alert when I talked about where Albert Einstein went back in time and killed Hitler, preventing World War II from happening, only to cause a different World War II when the Soviet Union invaded Europe? Well, after Red Alert 2, the Soviets did the exact same thing, only to Einstein, and caused an alternate World War III in the 80s, where they're taking over Europe. But due to their changes of the timeline, it caused Japan, now the Empire of the Rising Sun, to rise up as a third power to attack both the Allies and the USSR in the War of the Three Powers. That game, each side the story. The story. Each campaign has like one very, very hard mission in both sides, unfortunately. But it's one of the very few Command & Conquer games I actually beat. So that's really good. I don't actually like it, though, compared to the other ones, though, because, hell, even playing Skirmish on easy is really hard. Easy AI on Relative Free, my experience is really tough. In most cases, they're a cakewalk for me. And I hate the Empire of the Rising Sun's army. Because it mostly involves on stupid abilities which you have to manually activate to use, and I don't want that. I want to have an army that I just build it. It automatically does what it needs to do. Not have to keep pressing the buttons over and over and over again to activate their abilities and flip them all around them about that. Which I don't like, and that's all the Empire of the Rising Sun's army is, and I don't like it, even though they're very OP, I hate to admit it. And I don't like how their armies build. The Soviets are still OP for me. The Allies are kind of trash, other than their Air Force and all that. And the plot, at that point, the time-changing shit, time travel, because it's already been done 3 times in the Red Alert series, it's gotten kind of old, so I'd only give it a 73. Alright, Test Drive Offroad Wide Open. It was one of the free games I got for the Xbox when it came out. I mostly just played it for free roaming mode because the races and stuff on there are way too hard for me. But it was still fun, especially driving the monster truck on it. Just going to get a 70. Pokemon Moon, one of the sister games for Sun and Moon, which takes place in Gen 7. Began Gen 7 Alola. It is Sun and Moon, because this is going to apply to Sun as well. Like, the story for Sun and Moon, I thought was the second best of all the Pokemon main series games, other than Black and White. I thought it was really good. And since Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is the farthest up I got up in the Pokemon games, I think Gen 7, 8, Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon are the best Pokemon games in terms of, like, making teams and all that. Especially since you have to deal with HM's slaves. They were the first ones to get rid of that, pretty much. Yeah, that game was really fun. Of course, as almost all the main series Pokemon games from now on, from 1 through 7 generation, automatically going to get 100. They're that good. Pikmin Free Deluxe. I don't want to reveal the plot to this, because I'm going to play it for YouTube maybe sometime later this year. But, very good. Awesome. Although, it's actually the easiest of all the Pikmin games. So, very high mark. I don't want to reveal the plot, like I said, because I'm going to be playing it later on. So, keep that a secret till then. So, then, actually, at Pokemon Shining Pearl, which I did for YouTube, just like for Brilliant Diamond, just a 1. Monster, oh yeah, which I mentioned in part 1 of this series. Monster Rancher 4, which I hope to one day do play on YouTube as well. Monster Rancher 4, I already mentioned the game. It's like the only game that's somewhat like Pokemon that I really like, although the combat on it is pretty damn difficult and all that. I gotta show it off one time because it is really like time-based and complex. It's not turn-based whatsoever like Pokemon. And it has a really, really cool thing in the game where you make new monsters by putting in discs. Like actual like other PS2 game discs, other discs from other games, DVDs, CDs, anything you could think of. Whatever you put in, it generates a new monster based upon that DVD. And that is so interesting, so cool. Although that might be... I'm quite curious if that would even work if I emulated it. I might have to try it off. Try it one time before I even try doing a series on that. Because that I would need to know that. Because that's the only way most of you can make new monsters. That is really cool. And it'll get an 80. If it was easier, I would give it a higher score. Because that game is fun. Superpower 2. It's the... Oh man, that's a strategy nation building simulator from 2004. That game is very glitchy, unfortunately, and it's pretty dated for the time. It's very, very hard. Like, in order to do anything really outside of maybe like playing God, like America and being like #1 power in the world, you have to like glitch your way and cheese your way to get stronger, basically. God, you have to, I always have to do is, I have to cheat and, well, not cheat, but cheese, and set myself up to be capitalism, set my, global tax to 100%, which is brokenly OP, which kills your economy, but makes you a shit ton of money, build up your economy, build up your army, go around invading people, and invade countries that have a lot of provinces in them, that way you can release them, conquer them, release them, conquer them, and that keeps fixing up your relationship with everyone, and that way you can keep everyone's relationship high with you instead of having to go to war with you, because that game is impossible to fix your relationship with people otherwise. It is stupidly difficult. And it'll get a 75. If it wasn't so glitchy and all that, and more easier, it would get a higher score. Pokemon Alpha Sapphire to remake for Ruby and Sapphire. Nothing else really need to say. Like I said, pretty much all the main series Pokemon games after that, automatic 100. Fall Guys! Oh, the Battle Royale platform sport Indian, whatever you want to call it. That game is so funny. The game is actually hard as shit, but that's more due to the nature of the game than necessarily the stuff being like too hard and all that. Since we know we're going to lose in that one a lot, I just embraced the failure. That's why I call myself in the game the Golden Turd of Failure. That game is very, very fun. Although it would be the one thing I would like is maybe, well, wish there'd be maybe some new mini games and all that, but maybe make some of them a little bit easier, perhaps, and make it more like. Because a lot of times, like I see a lot of times now, where I don't see games being picked anymore when I do them do them online anymore. Like there are some games I was playing like 7 hours like in the last week or so, and I've only played like the same like 30% of the games over and over again. I wish I would mix it around a little bit more. And I can't really think of much else to say about it, though. Pokemon Puzzle League, I already talked about before when I talked about like its sequel. It's Pokemon, but Tetris themed. Only this one was actually good compared to the Game Boy one. But I would still just give it a 70. Alright, ATV Offroad Fury 2. I haven't gotten to those games yet. They're coming up, I think. But ATV Offroad Fury 2 is a 2002 racing game where you just drive ATVs and all that. I didn't really do like the tournaments and racing all them because they were like too hard. I mostly just put in cheat codes to unlock everything and just just drive around on all the terrains and all that. A lot of fun, especially one map that had a tornado on it, which sends you flying in the air. And then if you have the cheat where you can't fall off it, you get some massive air to do backflips and stuff like that, which you otherwise would not be able to do. That was so cool. This game is really good. It's of this one compared to MX Unleash and MX vs. ATV Unleash, I didn't like as much because those games had a lot more content to it, but this one was still very good. A 75. Game Dev Tycoon, the very first game involving I played at the business simulation where you do video games, and it is my most played game too. Wait, no. Technically, if you include my time playing on Steam, it is my most play game on the Switch, but my most played game all time on the Switch, excluding the Steam, is Shining Pearl. But this for a while was my most played game on Steam until Shining Pearl took it over. The game's fun, but it's kind of restrictive now compared to like Mad Games Tycoon that I've played since, and I still have a feeling that the game is largely like scripted. Like it's always like the same time no matter what, like a few years in where all of a sudden a game just blows up in a huge amount of sales, and it doesn't seem to be like me getting lucky. It just seems more like scripted. I have not been convinced otherwise that that's the case. So of all the Game Tycoon games I played, wow, community did not like it, but the critics didn't like it, but the fans did. I like it, but I wish it was a little bit more easier and a little bit more wide open to be different instead of it feeling scripted all the time, but gonna get an 80. Sims busted out. It's the only version of the Sims, the first Sims game I played, because of Sims 1, because I never played the original Sims. This is the only one I did. Sims busting out. It's largely the same, but it's more like story driven. Kind of like how about Sims 2 Pet Stories was like a story version of Sims 2. This one's really fun, although some of the stuff later on in the game is pretty damn hard. You have to cheese your way at the end of them in order to get like certain missions done. And it does have free roam too, where you can make your own family and Sims and all that, but it's restricted to each memory card for the Xbox I played on, where you can only have, I think it was like 3 houses at a time, so it's kind of limited to what you can do, sadly. But it still is very good. Give it an 80. This is gonna be nice. Sly Cooper and the Phoebus Raccoon is the original version, the first game of the Sly Cooper series, where you play as Sly Cooper as you try to get back to Phoebus Raccoonus, which is a book of his Cooper clan line, from the Fiendish 5. This is a different version of the game from the series because this was more of a platformer, whereas the other games became more like GTA and open world sandbox and all that. It's probably overall the easiest of them because of it. And it's short, so I could probably beat it like in one day if I ever try to do like a one-time challenge. Very good. No, because I like the story too. So what did I give the other Sly games? Let me see. Let's see. Okay, I gave the third one a 75. Because Band of Thieves is considered the best in the series, which I agree with. So this will probably be like even in between an 83. Alright, so now let's get back to it. Man, I got a long way to go still. Oh, man. But I'm going to push it. I'm going to try and finish this all done tonight. Alright. SimCity 3000 was the third version of the SimCity games that came out in 1999 where you build up a city. Run a city. This one is the one I played the most. I remember having such a difficult time playing this growing up. But now, last I played it, I finally started to figure it out now where I can't lose anymore. And it's mostly just building up loans, taxing everyone to a gazillion amount of money, and just building up shit to the point where I can make money on my own and start lowering shit afterwards. Very fun. I always enjoyed usually going like the story modes, on missions and just destroying everything with like disasters. Oh man, that was so fun and all that. This is my favorite of the SimCity games. So yeah, I'll give it an 83. Alright, Pokemon White. Like I already said earlier, Black and White I think is the best story of the Pokemon games. This is definitely up there as one of my favorites, even though I give them 100. Very awesome game. I still don't get how anyone could have hated it back then when it came out. I never saw it. I see people say they hated it like when it came out back then. I thought the game was perfect. Like everything I wanted Pokemon at the time when Black and White came out, I got. So, yeah, Black and White's awesome, just like all the main series games from Gen 1 through 7. Pokemon Snap, I said before when I talked about new Pokemon Snap, it's just a game where you take pictures of Pokemon. The concept is stupid. What's so appealing about taking pictures of Pokemon? But it's too nostalgic to just ignore. It's fun and it's like little silly charm and all that, but the game itself is dumb, so I'd give it a 75. Pokemon Crystal, the sister game for Gold and Silver, going for Johto, yada yada yada, 100. Pokemon Blue. See, all the Pokemon games are gonna start showing up right now. While two of the original games that came to America since Japan had remembered Japanese Red and Green. Very fun. Nothing else to say about that. Pokemon Black 2, the sequel to Black and White, yada yada yada. I need to get back to that too because it's been too long since I last played it. Pikmin 2. I just played did a playthrough of it back last year, remember? And man, that game was not as fun as it used to be when I went for that playthrough to get 100%. That game is hard. And if anything, playing it again, that actually might be the hardest game of the entire series. I thought 1 was the hardest one until I got to 100%. Like getting 10,000 Pokos, that was easy. Getting all the items and saving Louis, oh god, that you have no idea how many times I rage quitted that film and numerous times. It was so bad. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to give it a lower score because of it. That game was just simply way too hard. Let's see, okay, I gave Pikmin a 70. Man, I kind of almost want to give it a lower score than Pikmin almost, but it's not under 70. I guess I'll just give it a 73 instead. The game definitely had I have a lower opinion of the game after doing that YouTube playthrough of it last year, because that game was way too hard to get to 100%. That was stupidly hard. Alright, Madden NFL 99, which was the 1998 version of Madden. I never played the game. I only did simulate and like running seasons and all that. The seedings are correct. It does schedules good as long as you get the correct thing picked. So you gotta keep doing it over and over again until you get it right. Playoff scenes are correct. Only thing I don't like is that you have to not play the game. You have to press on the next game for it to simulate the game beforehand. That's really annoying. but it's still good in the way I do Madden. So give it a what I give the other Maddens? Let me see as a reference. Let's see, like Madden. Where's Madden? Okay, I haven't gotten to 2001 yet. Let's see, like Madden. Where was I just saw Madden 02? All right, a 78. Yeah, I think that's fair. A 78. Since remember, I never played it for like the actual gameplay because that was on the 64. It would not only, although I do like the graphics, the gameplay would probably be terrible, especially with the 64 controller. Oh god, can you imagine playing Madden on the 64 controller? Oh god, that would be bad. Madden NFL 2000 is the 1999 version. That honestly would probably be better than Madden 99 because you can actually create players and easily trade them around and all that, whereas in 99 you couldn't make players on the 64 version, so it made it difficult to like make teams better in an instant. So I'll give that an 80 instead. Halo Combat Evolved, the first version of Halo, which is a shooter, the only FPS I really like, especially the lore and all that. Oh man, that game was fun. I need to play it on YouTube eventually. I gotta do all the Halo games eventually. So I'd probably give that an 80 Frito. I can't think of really anything necessarily wrong with it, other than some missions being like a little too long. GTA 4. Oh man, I remember that. That's how I... No, that's not how I got in the 360. Wait, why did I pick Halo? I picked GTA 4. Stupid thing. So anyways, GTA 4, which I hope to eventually do on YouTube eventually. It's the sequel to... No, it's not a sequel. It's its own spin-off, because all the games like 3, Vice City, and San Andreas are in the 3D universe. 4 and 5 afterwards are in the HD universe. 2 separate universes. So in GTA 4, you play as Nico Bellic in Liberty City in 2008, as he has to run from his past as a criminal in Eastern Europe, as the past comes back to bite him. That game is hard as shit. The fact that I beat it without cheats to get, wait, why'd you pick 3? Dude, first I picked 4, and you picked Halo, then I picked it again, and you do 3. Like, come on! So anyways, I was saying, that game is hard as shit. I have no idea how I was able to beat it without using cheats, because I had to get, you can't use cheats in order to get the achievements. The fact I did it without cheating was astonishment, but god, I made the game fucking hard, especially that bank heist mission. Oh my god, that was so infuriating. And the driving. Oh my god, the driving in that game. The drive in the game went for like realism, and oh god, that does not handle well in video games whatsoever. Like, you can't drive fast at all in that game when you're like when you're chasing people and stuff like that. You have to drive like as slow as possible. It is bad. So, definitely not as good as, like, the other Madden games. Not Madden games, GTA games. But still is good. So, I'll probably give it an 83 just for the lore. Otherwise, I'd probably give it an 80. Oh, boy. Now, GTA 3. Which I did a YouTube playthrough, remember, back in 2016-17. Takes place in 2001, where you play as Claude as he becomes, like, a hitman, basically, in Liberty City. Just like Nico was. Now, when this game came out, it was a huge hit to see in terms of scores and all that. Well received. It got me into the Grand Theft Auto series. I loved going around just doing rampages, just killing people, killing cops and all that, and just using cheats to stay like unbeatable and all that. That was fun. But then when I actually got into like the game to like do the story mode, especially years later, I don't like it anymore. It's like my least favorite GTA game. It's way too hard, even with cheats, and a lot of the shit when it comes to missions, like, they tell you to do stuff, and then they don't tell you, like, how to get there on the map, what you gotta do and all that. So a lot of times you'll fail the mission at first because you just don't know what to do, whereas later on games, they tell you exactly what you need to do and all that. So the game, in my eyes, aged terribly, so I have to give it a pretty low score for that one in that regard. If it was easier and had the better HUD fixes, I would give it a lot better score. Pokemon Fire Red, the remake for Red and Blue, nothing else to say. Mario Kart Double Dash, which was... That was... I think the 4th Mario Kart game. that came out for the GameCube, what made it interesting is that you can have 2 drivers at once that actually swap places. So one of the characters drives and the other one throws out weapons and all that. That was a really cool concept. I haven't played in a long time, so I have no idea how much I would say about being good or not compared to the other Mario Kart games, because a lot of the Mario Kart games are like really hard because they have that stupid rubber band AI in a lot of them, and they making the higher difficulties where you like always keep getting hit by items and all that, and I just don't like that. But I haven't played Double Dash. In fact, Double Dash, I think, now that I think of it, just that might be the oldest Mario Kart game I haven't played in the longest, because I just played the original one just recently. I played 64 back in 2017. I played Super Circuit last year. I have not played DS ever, so that's the only other one I haven't played in a long time. Wii I haven't played in like 10 years or so plus. And I played 7 a few years ago, and I played Mario Kart 8 Deluxe a lot. So I don't know what to say about that. I think I'll probably give it a 78 at least for right now, but that could go down if I play it again. Pokemon Ultra Sun, like I said, the last good main series Pokemon game along with Ultra Moon 100. The Godfather, this is... oh, now it's funny, I don't have Wii Sports on here. I need to put that on here eventually. Wait, when did I give Godfather 100? Must have been a mistake when I put in there one time, because I never gave any of these games a review till just recently. Wait, hold on a minute. Did it give it... Wait, oh, it must have... Okay. Here we go again. So, when I put in... Dude! I'm hitting Ultra Sun! Let me put the score in for Ultra Sun! Like, dude! So that's why it keeps doing it, because it keeps pressing Godfather while I keep hitting Ultra Sun. So turn it out for the minute. So anyways, The Godfather came out for the Wii. It's like a spin-off to the Godfather movie series that takes place... I don't know the plot really of The Godfather, so I can't really say about it, but it takes place from 1945 to 1955. And it's kind of, let's see, adventure racing shooter. It's also kind of like a business management somewhat, because you have to go around like all the boroughs in New York City and intimidate all like small businesses in order for them to pay racketeering to the family and all that. And sometimes it's pretty easy. Some of them are really hard. The story is pretty damn difficult too. I haven't gotten far into it whatsoever because I just lose interest after a while. That game is pretty damn tough. And the controls for the Wii, oh man, that is tough as hell. It doesn't do well because it tries to do like a mix between of the motion controls and just being a regular control, and it ends up not being really good in that regard. So that kind of does hurt. Maybe if it did not do like the motion controls and just stuck with just being a regular controller, like Super Smash Bros. For example did, that would be very good. But unfortunately it did not do so well, so I have to give it a 70. Zoo Tycoon 2. So far, my favorite of the Zoo Tycoon, not Zoo Tycoon, the games run the zoo, basically. That game was really hard at first growing up. I figured out somehow how to manage it somewhat, so my reviews are going up much better. So I'm going to give that a 90. Only thing that sucks is maybe if it was easier, but now that I know how to play better, maybe I'll be better when I play it later on. Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I just mentioned that, was the third Smash game. That game, I remember when it was first coming out in 2008, how much hype it was when it came out after the sequel for Melee. That game was awesome. I did love the subspace missionary like story mode on it, although that was pretty difficult, but at least it let you unlock all the characters the quickest way possible too. Yeah, it along with Melee are one of my favorite Smash games. Let's see what I gave the other Smash games, because this one's going to be much higher than them. Let's see. 78, 75. Alright. I'll give it an 83. Alright, so now we're back to this. So let's see how much longer we gotta go. Oh my dear God, we still got a long way to go. Oh man. Let's see, how long have I been streaming for now? 40 minutes. Feels like it's been longer. Saints Row 2, I'm not going to reveal the plot of it though, because I'm doing my Saints Row playthrough and I'll explain the plot when I get to it. But I like it better than Saints Row, the original Saints Row. Like, a lot of the problems that were in Saints Row were fixed in 2. So I don't think I did. No, I did not do Saints Row yet. So let me. And I haven't done the third either. I think, did I? Okay, I don't have him as a judge. All right, because Saints Row I'm going to give a lower score than 2, but the third I thought was the best in the series, so that's going to be a higher score. So that's going to be a tough indicator of what to pick for it. Okay, get back to Saints Row 2. I'll probably give it a 78 then. Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire is a pinball game based upon Pokemon. That game is hard as shit, as all pinball games are. And it's just a 70. Mario Kart 64, I mentioned it already, the second game in the Mario Kart series. That game is hard as shit with the controls, and I don't like it as much growing up. Anymore as I used to. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, I mentioned this, I think it was in the first part where I talked about Jurassic Park, Jurassic World Evolution, to say. It's like Zoo Tycoon, but you run Jurassic Park, run dinosaurs and all that. This game is so fun. Doing the cheats and all that to make it easier too. When you do all the missions and the challenges, it unlocks Site B, so you can make another region, go on Site B, Isla Sorna, and make the island just full of dinosaurs without running a park whatsoever. That was so fun, just building dinosaurs close to each other and seeing how they react and all that. Oh, especially having the T-Rex and Spinosaurus fight each other. That was so cool. Now, this is what I wanted Jurassic World Evolution to be. Like a straight-up sequel to Operation Genesis with Sandbox at the start. That's one thing I like about Operation Genesis. Sandbox at the start. If it had that, I would have been very happy. So, I'll give Jurassic Park Operation Genesis an 88. Very good. Madden NFL 2001's the 2000 version of Madden. Now, I have two things to say about that. One is playing it on the PS2, and one is playing on the 64 version. On the PS2 version, when it comes to actually playing the games themselves, it's not as good compared to other Mads. And plus, it also doesn't help that I was emulating it, and when you do the Madden games, when you emulate, at least in my experience, sometimes it gets really laggy during the game, but then when you throw the ball up in the air, all of a sudden it has a massive boosting speed before it catches it again, slows it down again. So did not have a really good experience playing in that regard. Plus the indicators of who's the X receiver, the circle receiver, square, triangle, L1, R1, all of them are terrible. They're some of the worst indicators I think I've ever seen in Madden. So it makes catching very, very difficult and all that. So that's not really good, but the main thing I did both games for is just simulate like I always do, how I always play Madden. I like running all the league, running all the teams, building them up, simulating how they do and all that. That's what I like doing. On the PS2 version, although stats-wise, most of the players usually do very good, especially quarterbacks. Even the worst quarterbacks surprisingly put up pretty good numbers, even by 2000 standards. Like the quarterbacks in the PS2 version put up pretty solid numbers even when they're bad. But this is honestly probably the worst game in terms of playoff seedings and all that. I talk about how they do incorrect seedings, which I'll get to when I get to Madden 09. But teams that have worse seedings go to the wrong teams in the divisional round and stuff like that. This one's worse, where teams that are second place in a division will actually get a higher seed in the playoffs than a team in another division, which is not accurate. Here's maybe a good example. Let me think of it again. Here we go. So, in real life 2000, this is what seeds based off. In the AFC, number 1 was the Titans at 13-3. Number 2 was the Raiders at 12-4. Number 3 seed was the Dolphins at 11-5. Number 4 was the Ravens at 12-4. Number 5 was the Broncos at 11-5, and last was the Colts at 10-6. Those are the current seeds, but under the PS2 version of Madden 2001, the Ravens might be the number 2 seed instead of the number 4 seed because they have a better record than the Dolphins, and then they're tied with the Raiders, so they might have the tiebreaker over them. So the top two seeds could have been the Titans and Ravens in this scenario from the same division, even though we know it's supposed to be the division winners first, then the wild cards. Get what I'm saying? That's how bad it is in terms of seed, and that's the worst one. Oh my god. And of course, they'll even give teams wrong conference championships. Like I remember one season I did, it was the Jets and the Jaguars in the AFC Championship. The Jets were the higher seed, so they were supposed to host a conference championship, but since the Jaguars had the better record, they hosted the AFC Championship instead, which was inaccurate because the Jets had, I think, the number 2 seed, and the Jaguars were like the 5th seed. So, Madden 2001 on the PS2 version is honestly like one of the worst Maddens in terms of simulating seasons in that regard if you care about realism. Now, for the 64 version, it's the exact opposite. It's accurate in every single way. It's like it was like the Madden that I always talked about until like I played the more recent ones where they have a lot of fixes that is much better in that regard. The accuracy to a T. So, I'm going to probably give it I'm going to give it a higher score because I'll focus on the 64 version, especially since that's when I played more. And I'll give it an 80 in that regard. Actually, no, 83. Because that really matters to me a lot, the accuracy in terms of the playoffs and the stuff and all that. And Madden 2001 does that correctly. Hearts of Iron 4, it's the sequel to Hearts of Iron 3. It's Vicky 2, but takes place in World War II. They made it less complex, which is good, but the game is still too hard for me and I can't figure it out. So I gotta give it actually, no, I'm gonna give it a 65 until then. The game's gotta be much easier for me. Hell, I've even played the game on very easy and it's still way too hard. Like, I don't even notice any difference playing on very easy compared to normal. So yeah, that game's got to be much easier for me to give it a higher score, just like for EU4. Yu-Gi-Oh! Nightmare Troubadour, it's like one of the many DS Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. This one I played the most of, and I wanted to do a YouTube series on it for a long time, but I don't know how I'm going to do it, since that game takes way too long to get through the story and all that, because you have to level up a lot, and you know how long duels take. But this game is really fun. Of all the DS games, this one's my favorite, although I do find really annoying how Joey is harder than Yugi. Even Atem. Joey's harder than Atem with that stupid Battle City deck of his. That is so stupid. But the game is really damn good. So, 85. Alright, Destroy All Humans. Here we go up here as we're getting there. We're getting quite to the top. Might have to stop a little bit for a second. But anyways, Destroy All Humans. You already saw my YouTube playthrough I did just like in the last month or so, but it takes place in 1950s America, where you play as Crypto, who is a Furon who is invading Earth to extract human brains to get Furon DNA and all that. The game, other than like a few missions, is easy, although it is annoying in this game where you have to grind up in order to get all the upgrades from the brain stems, because that is really difficult. I mean, not difficult, but time consuming, as you saw. But man, those like 2 missions or whatever, those missions are hard as fuck. Like, irritatingly hard. But the game mostly is fun in terms of like destroying cities and all that. Oh man, that is fun. Although that was annoying having to go through dealing with all like the anti-air stuff when it comes to saucer attacks and all that. But the game definitely deserves a lot higher score than that. But it's going to be lower now because I played it through again and I don't probably like it as much as the other ones, but although I probably gotten through them. Let's see how I rank the other ones, because I think I played all the other Destroy All Humans on this list. Yeah, 78, 73, 65 for the remake. I haven't played Big Willie's Revenge yet, because I never even heard of that till like many years later. So let's see, 2 got the highest score. I think I'll give it a 78 as well. If it was easier, I'd probably give it a higher score. Although the game is mostly easy, except for like a few missions. Up, I overshot it. Where's it at? Thank you. Alright, we'll get these 3 out of the way too. Pokemon White 2, I already said. Sequel to Black 2 and White 2, very good. And Pokemon Black, very good. Like, up there's one of the best Pokemon games. Alright, I'll do Mario Party 5 and I gotta stop for a second. So Mario Party 5, outside, besides besides Superstars, which I just played this since last October, this was the farthest up in the Mario Party games I ever got. So, God, we went all the way up to 10 before they started doing like different, no longer doing numbers and all that. That's how far I got up in this series. Mario Party 5, they added, I think, no, wait, yeah, I think it was this game that included capsules as items instead of just doing regular items, which was weird. I didn't like how they removed DK as a character you could play as, but DK has his own spot now. We have to duel him, I think, and some of the duels, if I remember correctly, were not very good. I didn't like the story mode because it was so annoyingly hard. The one thing I did like in this game, it had that, I'm pretty sure it was this one, where, it had like a battle, like a demolition derby, like car mini game where you could build up your own car with upgrades and stuff like that, and just battle other characters out with your cars and all that. And I thought that was the best thing about the game. Honestly, I honestly played that more for that than I actually did for Mario Party. We'll find out, think about that again. Did I rank any of the other Mario Party games besides Superstars? Let's see. Okay, I gave him like all 78 and all that. This one I think I'm going to give it higher because of that mini game, so an 80. Alright. So, let's see. We got quite a bit to go still. As we're getting up there, we're almost near the 200... No, we're still under 150 hour games, but we got all of this still to go. Alright, so... overshot. And I got pretty far. I got all the way down from here. Like a couple dozen games. Alright. So when I come back, we'll do the rest of the game. So, see you guys then. So, be right back. Alright, now let's get back. Let's see, I've now been doing this for 53 minutes, okay? Alright. Alright, so next up on the list is up there is one of the games that has a lot of one of the older games too I've played. Civilization, the very first one that came out in 1991. I've played this on PC and like one of the few SNES games I played, which I thought was the best port of the game. So, Civilization was the very first game on it. It's honestly probably up there as one of the easier ones, just like 2, which I really like. Dated, of course, but hey, it has its own charm and all that. 2, I think, is better. 2, actually no, I like 4, I think, the most, but 1 and 2 are definitely the easiest of all the Civilization games, at least in terms of like warfare and all that. So, let's see, what did I give the other Civilization games so far? 75. So, Free got the highest one at 78 so far. Okay. And I've done it for you too before. There's only thing I could say about maybe it being better would require like a remastered version, because there's not much really I could say it's like bad about it per se. So I'd give it an 83. Madden NFL 07, it's the 2006 version of Madden. Nothing else much there is to say about. Wow, low score for even the community. That's usually like one of the up there is one of the games that were considered good, like back in the 2000s, surprisingly. So gameplay, didn't really play it for. I mostly played it for simulation and all that. Stat wise, it's not as good as like the Madden. What was it, Madden 2001 I mentioned before, but I mostly did for like running leagues, or making my own leagues with custom teams and all that, but I mostly did it on 04. So it at least would probably get a 73. Command Conquer Red Alert 2. This is the sequel to Red Alert, as I mentioned before. In Red Alert, it takes place in the 40s into the 50s, where Einstein went back in time, killed Hitler to prevent World War II, ended up causing an even worse World War II when the Soviet Union invaded. This takes place in 1972, where the American puppet Soviet Union declared war on America and started World War III to take them over. And the Allies and the world have to stop the Soviets from doing so. This game, it's one of the few Command & Conquer games I've beaten as both the Allies and the Soviets. And the Soviets, oh man, the Soviets are really like OP in this game. They're like really difficult to beat too. Especially the Apocalypse tank and the Kirov. Oh man, just thinking about it again, it's tough. And I did like the story. I thought it was probably the best story of the Red Alert series, since 3 kind of got stale with the time travel shit, and 1 got all set up and all that. So I think what was the other Command Conquer games? Because this one's gonna be up there a lot higher than the other ones. Let's see. Like I gave. Wait, I didn't give Red Alert a score? I'm pretty sure I did give Red Alert 3 a score. I think I'd give it a 70. $85. Well, I gave Red Alert, the original Red Alert, an 85, but I think 2 is better. But I don't think it deserves an 85, though. I guess I'll just have to give it an 85 because, like I said, I thought it was better than the original. Alright, so come on. Go down! Thank you. Alright, Command Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars was like the one absolutely good Command Conquer game that EA made, which was an unbelievable sight. EA actually making a good game? And I don't want to reveal well, actually, I've already revealed the plot already for all of them, so I guess it doesn't matter. So anyways, this takes place in 2047, the third Tiberium War, where GDI and Nod are going at it, and Nod tricked the GDI to do a massive liquid Tiberium bomb explosion, which then awoke a third faction we played, the Skrin, which is an alien race that actually was the origins of Tiberium coming to Earth, so Kane can trick them to do what he wants. That game, tough, but I actually beat the game too, and the combat there is really damn good. Although some of them, the game is kind of bullshit with abilities and all that, a Skrin especially, but it's not as bad as Red Alert. That was really bad. And the story was really good. Probably my favorite. This is my favorite Tiberium game, so I'd give it an 85. MX versus ATV Unleash, I mentioned earlier with ATV Offroad Fury 2. This is the best of the 3 games I played because it's MX Unleash, the sequel, which involves motocross racing. It has ATVs, so I can actually get the same feeling of playing like on ATV Offroad Fury 2. And it also includes all the stuff from MX Unleashed, so you can drive monster trucks, which as a huge fan of monster trucks, I'm gonna love that. Trophy trucks, dune buggies, planes, helicopters, crazy stuff on here. And I love the maps on here too, especially the monster truck map where I always race as monster trucks, which you saw on YouTube. I did a time trial video like a month or so ago. I did that, and I tried before, but I haven't been able to figure it out yet, racing monster trucks on ATV, because I've done that before, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. This is awesome from this series. This is the best one for me in the series, so I give it an 88. Mario Party 3, it's the third version of Mario Party. It added a battle feature where you have like a pet that's behind you, and they would battle if you got close to another player and all that. That story mode was pretty difficult to do as well. That was still the funnest part of the game. But it's just standard old Mario Party, so 75. At least that one gave out a whole bunch of new unique mini games on like 2, which 2 mostly just stole from 1. Pokemon Soul Silver, the remake of Diamond, remake of Gold and Silver. And you see, 90s across the board because gold, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Black, White, Black 2, White 2 are considered the peak of Pokemon, and it's well deserved. Pokemon Yellow, the very first Pokemon game I ever played back in 1999 to 2000. Awesome, nothing to say. Pokemon Red, this game with red, that was combined with Blue. Pokemon Omega Ruby, the remake of Ruby and Sapphire, as of course always going to be 100. MX Unleashed, I already mentioned it. It's just like MX versus ATV Unleashed without the ATVs, although the maps are pretty good and all that, but it's not going to get as high a score as the other one, so an 83 instead. Alright. Alright, now I've mentioned this, I believe it was in part 2 when it came to Juice. Next up on the list was Midnight Club Free Dub Edition, or as I played the remix version because that one had more cars on it. This is a street racer game where it takes place where you're street racer. It was the first game in the series where you can actually buy cars and build them up, because Midnight Club 1 and 2 you unlocked cars and that was it. You couldn't upgrade them or change them or anything. This was the first in the series to let you do it, which was a massive upgrade on my part. Now, unfortunately, though, the game is bullshit hard, like Juice, as I mentioned before. This game is stupidly hard, even when it gives you stupid arcade upgrades, where if you're behind someone long enough, you can do a slipstream turbo, which is like a nitrous boost, which you can overpass people. Each car has like a certain car feature to them that lets you either do one of free upgrades, Argo, which makes you just plow through everyone without facing any damage. Roar, which lets you do a massive roar that like scatters every single car around you. And the other one is a slipstream, which lets you slowly, quickly make turns without problems. Kind of like Franklin's ability on GTA 5, like in the zone for racing and all that. But even with all those upgrades, the game is still frustratingly hard. Like the later races, you have to go up to like 250 miles an hour. Imagine going through very narrow gaps racing at like 250 miles an hour for like, if it was San Diego, Atlanta, Detroit, and Tokyo. Like that is just not really feasible. Wow, only a 60? That is way too low. I'll give it a 75 at least. Let's see what Juice was, because let's see. Oh, I haven't gotten to Juice yet, huh? But I gave High Import Nights, which I thought was the best Juice game, at 75, so it's around that at least. I'm actually surprised that Midnight Club Free got such low scores. That doesn't make sense, because that was, I think, considered like the best of the Midnight Club games. Madden NFL 12, it's the 2011 version of Madden. Now, in terms of like playing Madden, because this was a massive change from Madden 10 and 11 in terms of like gameplay, I don't like the presentation of it. It's weaker than it was in Madden 10 and 11. And I don't like the actual gameplay of like actually playing the game compared to 10 and 11. But in terms of like running a franchise, this is much better on. Stats are still shit though when you simulate, but you can edit players, which is a massive upgrade. That was the first time you could do that in a game for Madden for like in 10 years or so. So that was pretty big. So that one's going to get a higher rank than compared to the other Madden, so I'll give that an 80. If the gameplay didn't change much and it did more, I would give it a lot higher score. Yu-Gi-Oh! Dawn of Destiny, I think it's the only Yu-Gi-Oh! Game on the Xbox. It's just standard old Yu-Gi-Oh! That's it. No story mode or no changes to the gameplay or anything. It's just standard old Yu-Gi-Oh! Which I like because that's, wow, only a 50. That's bullshit. The only thing I'd say about it is that the game is stupidly hard in terms of getting you cards and all that, and I don't like how it gives you cards where you have to pick a God card figure and just hope you get good cards. That's stupid. It should have given you like a battle point system like all the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, but it's still very good as just a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, so no, 85. Tonka Construction 2, it's the sequel to Tonka Construction, like I said. It's just an edutainment game where you just build up Tonka Town. So let's see the other ones, because this was the best Tonka game in the series. So I've given all of them a 75. This one was a massive upgrade from the original, so I'll give it an 80. Luigi's Mansion, like a launch title in the first game I played for the GameCube, where you play as Luigi going through a haunted mansion to save Mario. This is my favorite of the Luigi's Mansion series. Because it's mostly very easy. It's short, but it's still very easy enough to enjoy it. So I gave all of them like a 75, 73. So since this one is my favorite of the series, it's going to get the highest score yet. I'll give it 80. Civilization 4, it's the 4th game in the series. It came out in 2005. This one was a massive upgrade from Civ 3. The combat's probably the same. Graphically, it's much better. Diplomacy is much more usable. And, oh man, like the only problem is playing on normal difficulty is pretty hard, which is unfortunate. I think it got harder and harder as you played Civilization on the higher difficulties compared to the original. But yeah, this honestly, despite it's not as good easy gameplay in terms of taking over the world, I like this Civilization the most of all of them. 4 was the best. So I'd give it an 85. Let's see where I rank the other Civs at. Oh, we gotta come up to 2 still. Yeah. 5 I think is, you know what? Actually I might have to knock it up to 88, even though I don't think it's worth it, because I like 2 probably more than 1, but I can't give 4 an 85 if I might give 2 an 85 as well. Alright. So, come on, go down. Pokemon Sun, I already said about second best story in the series, but behind Black and White. It's probably the best in terms of just making a game where you can just make a team however you want and all that. Saints Row, plot is you're a person that joins Saints, the First Street Saints. You try to take over Stillwater and all that. I don't want to give I might be forced to, because I've already beaten the game multiple times before, as you see right there. But now going through it again, for some reason the game's a lot harder than it used to be when I used to play it back when I was a teen. And that's funny because I didn't also use cheats in this game, just like with GTA 4, because of the you wouldn't be able to get achievements. So I find it really weird how I'm struggling all these missions before when I never struggled. So unfortunately, my review is going to be a lot lower than it used to be. So I'm going to give it probably a 75. Civ 2, it's the sequel to Civ 1. It's in 1996. Graphically, a massive upgrade. And I think the best... No, I would say maybe the second best of the series. And I'll give it an 83. It has the easiness. If it had the better graphics, I probably would say it's probably maybe be the best one, but 4 still better. So next up, Pokemon Y, of course, 100. All right, Pokemon. Oh yeah, Solar Light, Lunar Dark. That is a fan-made game. That's awesome with 350 plus Fakemon. Love how they do a regional tournament and all that. Training wise, unfortunately, it's not as. It's actually might even be worse than Uranium, as I mentioned earlier, because you can't grind anywhere in terms of trainers. So that's really bad. That's like the one negative I can think of it. Oh, another negative too is they had Misty in there, because I don't like mixing up like the main universe of Pokemon with a custom universe. You either have one or the other. But otherwise, it is definitely probably up there. It's like one of the best fan-made games I've played. So I would give it a 95. Super Smash Bros., the original Smash Brothers. Don't like the controls playing it later on. It definitely didn't age well, so I'd probably have to give it the worst score, even though I still like it more than the 2 recent ones for the 3DS and Ultimate, but the controls really are bad. Saints Row the Saints Row the Third takes place after Saints Row 2. I don't want to reveal the plot much of it yet, because I plan on doing it for YouTube. But it's my favorite of the Saints Row games, so 85. Monster 4x4 Masters of Metal. Wow, dude! These are scores I would give if I didn't play the game. It just came out recently, but damn! Man, that's way too low. So anyways, it then takes place, but it's right after Monster Jam Max Destruction. It's more of like a racing game where you buy a truck, go through a season to get to the World Finals, which isn't even actually the World Finals. It's some straight, crazy like circuit race, which all of the stadiums are circuit races. You have to do off-road circuit racing and do challenges and all that. hard as fuck in a lot of times, easy as hell in other times. Later on, the races become, like, I think, way too long for the free laps, and you have to do free races, too. That's kind of disappointing. The game was fun, though, in its own charm way, so I'm going to give it a much higher score to everyone else, a 70. Juiced, I already talked about before in Eliminator. It's annoyingly hard. Both Midnight Club 3 and Juiced are are terribly hard, which I don't like in their own unique ways. But I gave Eliminator, which is the exact same game, a 70, I think, so I had to give Juiced the same thing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. It was the very first Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that came to the West in 2002. Although it came out in 1999 in Japan, this was, like I said, the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Game to come to America, I think. It was a terrible idea to do so because the game was so radically different from the anime, which I'm sure a lot of people, because the card game did not come out here first. It was the anime for like several months before the card game itself came out to America. It was different from the anime, and it was different from the actual card game itself. It was a terrible game in terms of what they had to start having Yu-Gi-Oh! Games come here. They should have done just a simple Yu-Gi-Oh! Game like Dawn of the Destiny in order to get things started, but they didn't do that. So the game was terrible, at least for me, when I first played it, because it was so difficult and so different. And it still is very difficult later on, but it's a little bit more manageable now that you understand it. But the game itself is still very hard, and you have to grind up a lot in order to get more cards. And that's why I haven't done a new stream episode since, like, what? August or something like that? So I would give it a 75 right now. But that game was they should not have done Forbidden Memories when they brought the series to America. They should have done a whole different game instead. Alright. This one might be a little bit controversial. Madden NFL 21, which is the 2020 version of Madden. This was recently the most hated Madden in the last several years. Like, I remember one time it had like a 4% score, I think, on Steam or Metacritic or something like that. It was really bad in that regard. And I don't blame the Madden community for having a problem with it. They didn't fix any of the problems with the franchise mode. Terrible glitch and all that. All they care about is MUT and all that. All that's true. But for me, though, playing it, because I played Madden for a lot different reason than most people probably do. I don't play Madden really to do, like, playing football. I usually play Madden more to run the whole entire league and simulating and running all the teams and all that. And I have to say this. In terms of that, Madden 21 so far is up there as one of the best Madden games in terms of doing what I want. Other than maybe like the very old like 90s and early 2000s Madden. It gives accurate scores. I mean, not accurate scores. It gives realistic stats for players when I simulate. It lets me force win games, which is a big plus to me. That way I don't have to keep going back and forth, load up, restart in order to get the game correctly. I can just pick who I want to win, done, just like that. It lets me edit the teams, edit the players, which is very, very useful, and all that. I like that. All those things are very good. It has pretty accurate playoff schedules, where it does the kickoff game correctly, Thursday night football and all that. Sucks doesn't have the divisional game stuff correct, though. It has the playoff seeds correct, too, which is another big plus for me. So all those things make it up there as one of the better Madden simulators for me. The only problem, though, is, franchise mode still needs to be better. It needs to let you make our own teams, and they need to change it where you pick all the teams. Like in the older Maddens, I could just pick all 32 teams just like that. I shouldn't have to spend like 10 minutes making every single new character for each new team. It's fucking stupid. So they need to fix those two things. But for me, how I play Madden, this is going to be up there as one of the better Maddens for me, so I would probably give it a 90. And I know it's going to be very controversial to say that, because it does deserve the hate. Madden 21 definitely deserves it, but for me, how I play, it's almost perfect in that regard. RuneScape, this is a free-to-play game. It's been around for 20 years on online. It's an RPG, kind of like Legend of Zelda in all that regard. I've been a member of it since Christmas 2006. I haven't played it, though, in almost 2 years, though. It is very fun, although I haven't really gotten far much in the story because it's way too hard. And I know, I understand you would think that, because like I said, though, I play Madden for a lot different reasons than maybe you and others. But this game I mostly just spent around grinding in order to get my levels up, and just being really casual in that regard. So I think I'd give it a 78. Oh yeah, GTA Vice City, where it takes place in 1986, and you play as Tommy Vercetti, who was released from prison to do a drug deal down in Vice City, only with him almost getting killed, and now the whole game is just him becoming the main drug runner in Vice City. Love the plot. All the problems that was in GTA 3 I mentioned were fixed in Vice City, and in terms of the story, this might be like one of my favorite GTA games. Now, in terms of gameplay and stuff, not as much, but it is really, really good. So I would probably give it an 88. Command & Conquer Generals. Looks like the original Generals? Yeah. Alright, so this is the third version, the third universe of the Command & Conquer series, and the black sheep of the family, since it's the most not disliked and the shortest one. So Generals takes place sometime between 2013 to 2023, where it's a free world, the superpower struggle between America and China, but they have to like quasi work together with themselves in order to stop the GLA, which is a jihadist terrorist organization that's pretty much fucking both of them up. It was a radical departure, somewhat from the Command & Conquer series, kind of like Tiberium Twilight, but nowhere near as bad as that one was. And it was not really well received in the Command & Conquer community, but it was the first Command & Conquer game I actually played, and I like it. I like how they do like bulldozers to build up base and all that, instead of, just building up the building, wait for it to build up itself and all that. And I love all the factions too. I like America, I like China, but I really like GLA. Although their base defenses are terrible, playing as them is like so fun and OP in all that regard. The story mode, however, there's not much of a story though compared to other Command & Conquer games. I haven't gotten far in this game whatsoever. I haven't beaten any of the stories. I haven't beaten China, GLA, or America, because that's the order you're supposed to do them as: China, then the GLA, and then America. But this one is definitely really good. So I give it 83, and the reason I didn't give it a higher score because it's its expansion pack, Generals Zero Hour, which takes place right after Generals, where it now mostly takes place in Europe, where GLA is overtaking Europe, America kicks their ass, then GLA beats America up so badly that America goes full-blown isolationism and leaves Europe completely, and then China comes in and destroys them so badly that China and Europe form their own version of NATO, and China becomes the superpower in the world. The story, this one was much better, and the gameplay was much better too, and they added Generals Challenge, which was really cool, where you play as generals, you have to do challenges against other generals. Oh man. And this is one of the few Command & Conquer games I've actually beaten. I've beaten all of them, America, then GLA, then China, in that order. This one is up there as like one of my favorite Command & Conquer games, so I'd give it an 88. Pokemon Ultra Moon, nothing else much to say about that. Straight up 100s. Mad Games Tycoon 2, probably the best video game development simulator game I've played. Although it got to the point where it's like too easy that I can't play it on normal anymore. I haven't played it in a while because they've added a whole bunch of more stuff to it, and it still is a game in development. It is very, very good. The only thing I could say, maybe make it better, is maybe add some more topics, which they have added a whole bunch of more topics lately. There were some I think they should have added, but I think they've added a whole bunch in. I would like it if maybe they would have like a random thing where you can have like all the topics maybe unlockable, because the original Mad Games Tycoon did have that. Or maybe have a thing where you can randomly move it, randomly splice up a little bit, so you can have different genres and topics at the start when they're released. And I would like if the randomizer actually gave genres random stats for like each gameplay feature, because the game's heavily biased towards like skill games in the beginning, because skill games get massive bonuses in terms of gameplay features, whereas adventure, racing, and puzzles do not benefit from it. So if you play on the higher difficulty, you're like forced to mostly make skill games, which I don't like. And maybe make it... Well, actually, I think it has gotten a little bit more challenging on medium difficulty, because I'm having a little bit of a challenge on it where I normally wouldn't. So maybe they fixed that a little bit. But this game is definitely the best video game development sim series. So I would give it probably a 93. If they add a little bit more stuff to it and do some other things, I'll give it a higher score. Alright, we're getting up there. We're getting there. Oh yeah, we're down to like the final like maybe 30 games or so. Onigiri. It's a free-to-play Japanese MMORPG game that I've been a member of since 2014 until they deleted my account last I checked. That still hurts that they did that. Now, it's just a free MMORPG where you go around. The story is pretty simple. There is an anime for it, which I probably should watch in the future. The game is really difficult, though. Like, it is punishingly difficult in terms of, like, levels. Like, you have to be, like, at the levels they recommend when you go for, like, dungeon or anything like that. Otherwise, you are going to get wrecked. Trust me, if you saw my last stream, you would all know that. The game, overall, I would probably give it a 75. Alright. Mario Party, the original Mario Party game. There's not really much to say about it since it's just normal Mario Party with no bonuses and all that, so I'd give it a 75 as well. Oh, Toy Story 2, Buzz Lightyear to the rescue. It's the video game spin-off, tie-in of Toy Story 2, which came out in 1999. The game largely follows the movie to a T in terms of like how the movie went, in terms of like the surroundings and all that. The game is very easy. The only thing I don't like is I don't like games where I have to go back and forth in order to unlock stuff. This game has that, unfortunately, but not as bad like other games and all that. But the game, and also it's really short. Like, you could probably beat that game like in 4 hours. It's really short, but it's still up there as one of my favorite PS1 games. I would what to give it? I think I'll give it a 93. Monster Jam Maximum Destruction was the very first Monster Jam game. Although it's the one Monster Jam game that doesn't really involve like running monster trucks. It's a vehicular combat, pretty much like Twisted Metal. Which this might be really weird to say because, like I said, when I want to play monster truck games right now, like I don't like Steel Titans, for example, because it's not like realistic, like BeamNG and Rigs and Rods, for example. Now, Maximum Destruction is even worse because it doesn't even have racing. Well, actually, no, it does have racing freestyle, but it's not at all like racing freestyle as we know it as. It's mostly vehicular combat. But this game has a unique charm to it for me, mostly because I played it as a kid, so it has like a nostalgic factor for me in that regard. Now, if this game came out like now and I never played it, I would probably shit onto it. No, it ain't that bad. No. Come on, that game is good. The only thing that sucks, though, about it I can think of, especially on the PS2 version, since I've only played that on the Game Boy Advance version, is that game is like really difficult in order to unlock trucks and all. There's like, I think 10 hidden trucks on there, and I've never unlocked any of them. And I played this game for 20 years, since I mostly played on easy. But this game is still very fun in its own right. I think the best Monster Jam game too, believe it or not. So I give it an 83. Bully! Alright, Bully is like the GTA game that Rockstar made, where he plays Jimmy Hopkins, he is both a bully and an anti-bully at the same time as he goes for Bulworth Academy. The one thing I don't like about this game, wow, no scores on it from anyone? Really? Oh wait, why did you press on battle tanks? Now there's the scores. So, the one thing I don't like about it is that the controls on it. The controls are just garbage bad. That is like the worst thing in the game is the the controls. Otherwise, the game is pretty easy and fun, and I like the story too in it. So I'd give it a 90. But, here we go now. Battle Tanks Global Assault. I mentioned, I think, in the first stream or whatever it was. So this takes place right after Battle Tanks, which, like I said, in Battle Tanks, a virus comes in and kills, like, almost all women in the world and causes World War III. Most of civilization destroyed. You play as Griffin Spade, who has to go across America in a tank to save his fiance, who was like one of the few women in the world that didn't get killed. It takes place right afterwards, where he now has a family, and he runs like a tank base in San Francisco, and it was attacked by this woman named Cassandra, who's trying to kidnap their son, who has a unique power to him, which was eventually revealed called the Edge, which is the main reason why his fiance wasn't killed by this virus. So they use it, and they have to go all the way across Europe to destroy Cassandra. Story is much better, and the gameplay is so much better. New tanks, everything that was bad about the original Battle Tanks, much better here. Only thing that sucks about this game is that there's two missions in particular that are very, very, very hard unless you have two players. Like, they're really hard, but the game is pretty much perfect. So I want to give it 100, but I'll give it a 98 instead because of those two difficult missions. But if I play with like two people, it's 100. It's very good. Like one of my favorite 64 games. Alright, GTA 5, which is the most recent GTA game. Now, most of the people probably play it more for GTA Online, but I'm going to focus more on the storyline first. As you play as... It was the first game we play as three characters. We play as Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. Michael and Trevor were thieves that worked together for several years until they had to disappear in their last heist that didn't go out so well. Trevor escaped to hide in the outskirts of Los Santos and San Andreas. Michael and Hayden had to hide in like the affluent part of Los Santos. And then Michael eventually ran to Franklin, who was a wannabe gangster in the ghetto part of Los Santos, and becomes like his mentor. Trevor eventually discovers Michael lives when he thought he died, and that led to a very funny reunion between them. And eventually the game resolves them solving all their difficulties, getting rid of all their villains basically from each story, because they each have like their own villain that they have to deal with and all that. The story is very good. The gameplay is really fun. Although I don't know if I like it as much as San Andreas because of like the limited cheats that it gives you. And online I don't really like online as much compared to the normal game. Hard as shit. The games, all the missions are largely set where you have to have people helping you. And even with people helping you, it's still very difficult. And like I said, I don't like hard games, so that's a massive negative in my part. But GTA 5 is still very fun, so I'd give it a 90. But I don't think it's my favorite GTA game, though. Rampage... No, I think I did the number wrong. I did not play Rampage World Tour that long. Let me lower that quite a bit. That might be more accurate. So, it dropped it down here, and I gotta find it. Now, where's World Tour? Here we go. So, anyways, Rampage World Tour. I mentioned it before when I talked about World Destruction, I think it was. It's a platform arcade game where you play as kids who became monsters like Godzilla, and they're destroying cities. And it's basically destroy as much as you can before you get killed. Just simple fun, but give it a 70. Alright, so now, back up to here is... We're almost to the top. We're almost getting there. Here we go. Easy one, too. Pokemon Platinum, the sister game to Diamond and Pearl. Oh, come on. It ain't... Even if the community ranks Platinum much higher than that, that's just a bunch of crap. But I'm going to give it 100, of course. Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, one of my other favorite PS1 games. We play as Bugs Bunny, who was lost in time when he was on his way to Albuquerque. Oh, no, Pismo Beach, I mean to say, because he took a wrong turn in Albuquerque. The problem is with the game is it's easy, which I like. I don't like going back and forth like I mentioned when it came to Toy Story 2, but this one's even worse in that regard because like every board you have to come back and get stuff on, which I don't like doing that. but it's not hard. Some of the items, though, are like really annoyingly difficult to find, though, too, which is really annoying. But overall, I think I might like it more than I do Toy Story 2. So I think I'll give it a 95. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Straight Pokemon games. Pokemon Gold and Silver. Here we go. 100. Those were classic. Then Heart Gold, which is the remake for Gold and Silver. And then Pokemon X, the first games of Gen 6. Like I said, all the Gen 1 through 6, Gen 1 through 7 games up to Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I thought were perfect. Alright, and up, I think we now can almost see... Yay! We're finally there! These are the last bunch of games! We're almost near the end! Yay! So anyways, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, it's the sequel to Roller Coaster Tycoon. Wow, the critics gave a terrible score. It's literally the same game as Roller Coaster Tycoon in terms of graphics-wise, which I like, although it adds more rides to it, which is good. And it lets you create your own scenery so you can make your own parks, which is a massive upgrade from the original. So this one is my favorite Roller Coaster Tycoon game. And I can't really think of... The only thing I maybe don't like is that in this game you can only make money from either admissions or from rides. In the original one you can make money from both rides and admission, but here you have to choose. That's not good, but it's still manageable. But that's still not a flaw in itself to give it a low score. So I'm going to give it a perfect 100. Game's awesome. Alright. So next up, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. It's the sequel to Pokemon Colosseum. Where in that game... Dude, really? Come on! What's up with the critics giving terrible scores to them? Damn! So anyways, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is a sequel to Colosseum, where it takes place 5 years after Colosseum, where it takes place in the Ori region, where a villainous team called Team Sapphire that's kidnapped Pokemon and corrupted their hearts and made them shadow Pokemon, and you have to go around as Michael and snag them, all those shadow Pokemon, and purify them. So all the main problems I had for Colosseum were fixed in this game. Like, it's much easier. There's more there's more Pokemon to catch. There's even wild Pokemon too, which is not in Colosseum. Much easier to train. Actually, no. No. Actually, take it back. It's not as easier to train because of MT Battle being nerfed. All the problems with it being difficult were fixed and all that, except near the end. That's pretty difficult, especially when you have to battle the main leader of Team Sapphire with his all shadow team. Oh man, that is annoying. But I think it's a lot better in Colosseum though. So give it an 85. Wait, did I give it? Okay, gave it 85 for a minute. Therefore, I gave it 89. Pokemon Stadium. It's just a game of Pokemon where you just battle Pokemon competitively in stadiums. Just classic old Pokemon. So it has mini games too, which I liked, and you can bring in your Pokemon from Red, Blue, and Yellow into the stadiums, and you can even play Red, Blue, and Yellow under too. So I'd give it a 90. Pokemon. We're gonna have a couple Pokemon games in a row now. Make it quicker. So like I said, Pokemon Leaf Green, the remake of Red and Green, Diamond Pearl, the first games of Gen 2, Gen 4. Open TDD, it's the fan-made version of Transport Tycoon Deluxe, which is a transport simulator game, which I love. Can't really think of much problems with it other than the limited trains and stuff that you can use. There are mods that fix it, but those mods fucked up in a whole bunch of ways, so I can't really use them and all that. And some terrains are really difficult, like the desert one is like unbeatable for me at least. Toyland's tough, but the other terrains are easy as hell. So, and I don't like that they don't got the original music either too from Transport Tycoon Deluxe. I want to be able to play that music so bad. But I would give it a 93. Pokemon Stadium 2, just like Stadium, with just Gen 2 in it. So I gave Stadium a 90, so this is going to get a 90. Actually, I might give it a 93. I mean, not 93, because I think it might be a little bit better because it has more mini games and new Pokemon in it. Super Smash Bros. Melee, it's the second version. Wow, I never thought I'd see a critic score give it 100. Okay. So anyways, this is the second game in the Super Smash Bros. Series. This is like one of the best GameCube games. I think it's the highest selling GameCube game of all time, too, in terms of sales. It is definitely up there as one of my favorite. Let's see what I gave Brawl again. Because Melee and Brawl were my favorites. Okay, I gave Brawl a 83. I can't really think of much problems with it other than how the unlocked characters are really annoying. But the game is really good, so I'll give it an 85. Alright, the last bunch of Pokemon games. Pokemon Sapphire, the first game of Gen 3. Pokemon. Oh, all the Gen 3 games right here. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald back to back. And Emerald being the sister game to Ruby and Sapphire. Wow, those critics really gave Emerald shit score. Emerald's up there as like one of the best ones, too. Alright, BeamNG. BeamNG is just a racing simulator game, and of course, as I'm sure all of you know, I mostly get it just to play monster trucks on it. In terms of driving on there, in terms of funness of like crushing cars, this is better than Rigs or Rods, but I think the trucks don't handle as realistically compared to ROR. I've mentioned it before on it. And the one thing I don't like is just the mods on there being like unstable in terms of monster trucks, where either the game updates or an update to like Bee Monsters breaks everything. And it's so irritatingly bad, combined with the fact that I can't really play the game right now because of the graphics cards issue, that really hurts my enjoyment of the game right now. But I'm still gonna give it, I'll probably give it a 98 instead of 100. If it wasn't for like the issues I had with like Bee Monsters and the game being updated, breaking all the mods, I'd probably give it a higher score. Alright, Stuntman is a racing game where you play as a stunt driver, where you do stunts for movies and all that. The story is, the game is notoriously very, very hard. Punishingly hard. Unfair hard. And the problem is, the best part about in the game is that it has a stunt constructor area where it's a giant like figure 8 stadium where it has monster trucks on it. Well, a monster truck. And you can get like cars, buses, car stacks to make tower powers and all this stuff to make monster truck events on. And this was like my main monster truck game I would play from like 2002 until I found MTM2 back in 2008. This was like the main game I would play if I wanted to get my monster truck fixed. And it was so satisfying too. That was the best part about it. But in order to get more stuff unlocked, including the monster truck, I had to get far into the story mode in terms of doing the movies. And that was not fun. Like, it's largely reversed from Ignition, where I said the worst part about Stuntman is doing the movies, whereas in Ignition, the worst part is the stunt constructor. But it is so fun with the monster truck nostalgically, so I give it a 90. If the game did not have as hard of a story, I'll give it a much higher score. Madden 10 is the 2009 version of Madden NFL. It was like I remember when I first got it, because this was when I started to play, get Madden like every single year when I started doing that. It was a massive change for me when it came to playing Madden, because all the Maddens I played were like on 04. So I was playing Madden like on 2003, and here I am playing on 2009 on the 360. Massive changes and all that. If anything, though, it might be worse than like Madden 04, which we're going to be getting to a little bit. Although it has created teams, it has very limited options in that regard. Although it is easier to play Madden too, and the problems though I had with Madden, which I'll probably get to, which I did cover somewhat in when I talked about Madden 2001, but I might get into when I get to Madden 08. This game overall is probably going to get like the standard Madden score of maybe like, I think I'll maybe give it, let me see the other Maddens. It's not going to be high, it's probably going to be like a standard Madden score for what I played for. Yeah, like, let's see, let's like Madden 11. Where I gave Madden 11. Like a 78, I gave 12 and 80. Well, I said I liked Madden 10 more than 11, so I probably had to give it an 80. Yeah, I think that's fair. Although I like 12 more in terms of running leagues. 10 I thought was better in terms of actually playing the game itself. Oh, I did Colosseum by mistake. Alright, let me fix that. Alright, Pokemon Colosseum. It's the first game in the Colosseum and XD series. I don't like it as much compared to XD because it's a lot more difficult, and you're limited to what Pokemon you can use too because of the short small roster. So I gave XD an 85. You know what? I'll give Colosseum an 80. Madden NFL 04. In terms of like running a custom league, Madden 04 was probably, I think, the best. Game-wise, I can't really play Madden 04. Hell, I can't even play the game on normal difficulty, Pro. I have to play it on very easy. What? 46? Dude! Where did they get these reviews? These Mads are like, some of the older Mads are like viewed as one of the best. How are you saying it's like one of the worst? Dude! That makes no sense. So, in terms of gameplay, Madden 04 is like up there, on the lower end. But in terms of running the franchise, I think Madden 04 is probably the best. So, there's like, I think there's like over 100 like custom logos you could choose from to make like your own custom teams, make your own custom stadium, uniforms, pick your own colors. That was the best thing. That's what I mostly did on Madden. I would make 32 teams and run a series and let them simulate through it. That was up there as one of the best Mads to do it on. Although, realism in terms of like the playoff scenes, it's the standard badness in all that regard. But with the create team function being the best in all the Mads that I know of, this one's going to get a higher score than normal. I would give it an 85. If the scenes were better, and the gameplay was better, I would definitely give it a higher score than 21 in that regard. Locomotion, it's the sequel to Transport Tycoon Deluxe that came out in 2004. It's literally Roller Coaster Tycoon graphics, but focused on building the transportation empire. This one, however, was not liked as much in the community. It actually is flipped. The community did not like it as much compared to Transport Tycoon Deluxe. I like it. It's I'm trying to. It's. You can make your own scenarios, but it's not as easy as Transport Tycoon Deluxe. It has missions on which Transport Tycoon Deluxe did not have. It's very limited on trains and stuff unless you pick all the maps of US, UK, and the rest of Europe. Then it has more shit in it. The map is more limited too because you can't make giant maps on it, and this takes more stuff, more terrain in order to build like train stations, airports, and all that. And if you have AI on it, it makes it more annoying. So in a lot of ways, it's not as good as the original Open TDD, sadly. So I'd probably just give it an 80. All right, Civ 5, the most played civilization I have on here. And it was my most played game on Steam for a long time, too. It's my third one now. So, Civilization 5, it came out in 2010. This actually was the very first game that I got on Steam. This is what got me into Steam back in November of 2012. I don't like as much as the other Civilization games. I don't like the hexagon tiles. I prefer them being squares. I do like the open formed borders, because in the original 3 and 4 where you had borders, it was fixated, like it would grow a exact size. It never would deviate where it goes. This one, you can snake around, do unique cool borders and all that. The only problem is it's permanent. Whereas in Civ 4, for example, if a city got taken over, all the culture would be destroyed, and it would be a small tile, so the borders could radically change and all that. Here, wherever the borders your city are at is permanent, and I don't like that. Combat, I think, is the worst on here. You can't just overwhelm your opponents like you could on Civ 2, 1-2 with your industrial might. That doesn't work here. And you can only have one troop 2 in a city instead of having as many as you want to. So I don't like it compared to 1, 2, and 4. So I'd probably just give it an 80. Roller Coaster Tycoon. First game. Love it. Although it's not going to get a high score because it's not as open as Tycoon was. So I'd probably just give it a 95. Now we're getting into the games my top 10 games of the most playtime, remember. So first up on the list was Madden 09, which I mostly play on the PC. It's the 2008 version of Madden. Now, I played it too on the PS2, but this is mostly going to be on the PSP. On the one hand, in terms of like running the league, it's the best of like the Maddens in the 2000s in terms of like correct scenes, because it gets the playoff scenes correct. Now it doesn't do player stats really well, but then again, most of the Maddens back then didn't, so that's nothing new. But there are a lot of problems with this game. I don't know if maybe it's because I'm playing on the emulator, but it glitches a lot. Like, game-breaking glitches a lot of times, too, which isn't very good. There's no... There's no challenges on the PSP version. Literally no challenges. So, no matter what, whatever the game says is final. You can't challenge it. And, of course, there's no, like, custom teams and all that, which I know for Madden 09 on the PS2, at least I played on, does have that. So, unfortunately, combined with all the glitches, I have to give, unfortunately, Madden 09 a lower score than I normally would compared to the other Maddens. If it had the no glitches and all that, and maybe better stats, I would say it'd be up there as one of the better Maddens. This was one of my favorite Maddens to simulate on for several years because of the accurate playoff scenes, but now I don't like it as much, unfortunately, so I have to give it a 65. Alright, then the 10 Dogs, which is a game I mentioned before when I did, I can't remember what the game was called, but it's a simulator where you take care of dogs and puppies. And this one I think is more in depth too, because you can do tournaments, not tournaments, like competitions, like frisbee throwing, command shit, and like time trial too, going through obstacles and all that. The one thing that I really, really, really hate about this game, to the point where it's like a game-breaking issue for me, is that it's time-based, like real-life time-based. So if you don't play it after like a few days, your dogs will be so hungry and thirsty that they're gonna run away from you, and it'll be a bitch to get them back. It should have been where it's just simply when you turn it back on, it restarts again. None of this bullshit where you have to play it every single day or otherwise you're fucked up. So I can't even play Nintendogs in that case. Unless I find a mod that fixes that or change the clock to whenever I last played every time so I don't have this issue. But I can't play Nintendogs every single day anymore like I used to do for like a 13-month period when this game came out. I can't do it. I don't want to do it anymore like that. So that hurts. So I have to give it a 78. If it wasn't for that, I would give it a higher score. Alright, GTA San Andreas. This was, I think in terms of overall gameplay and with like the cheats and all that, this actually might be my favorite GTA game. Although I don't like its story as much compared to like Vice City. And it's not as easy either too. Even with cheats, when I did my playthrough of it from 2019 till last year. That game is hard. But I don't really think, all the issues with it are, I can think of, are just mostly being like outdated and all that. If it wasn't for if the cheats worked better for like invincibility on 5, like it does on San Andreas, I'd probably say 5 might be overall my favorite GTA game. But I think overall San Andreas is my favorite, so I'm gonna give it 100. EU4, which is the Vicky 2 version of it's the Vicky 2 that takes place from 1444 to 1821, where you actually start building up nations from their feudalistic times, colonize the Americas and Africa too, before you begin the revolution phase of like the Napoleonic era, and begin to industrialize for Vicky 2. This game has a lot of things on it that make it better than Vicky 2. Like, this game has a lot more roleplay aspects to it too. Change your religion, change your culture. You can create custom nations, although you can't really change your own. You can rename provinces and stuff like that. Colonization's really cool too, and all that. Although I don't like the economy aspect of this game. I like Vicky 2's much better. And combat in this game is just straight up trash unless I'm playing hordes. This game, if it wasn't difficult, I would say is better than Vicky 2. But it's still too hard, and I don't like the combat aspect for it. Although my flow of it has gotten much better in the last few months since I've being able to actually do games again, since it's not stuck where I normally would be otherwise. So I think I'd give it an 80 for right now. Like, if this was back, like, in September or something like that, I'd probably give it, like, a 60, like I did, Hoi 4. Spore is like a, well, not, I don't know why it calls it an RTS, it really isn't. It's like, I call it like a god game where you play as like a cell stage, you evolve into a creature that eventually gains sentience to become a tribe, become a civilization, and become a space foreign empire. This game was so fun when it came out, and I remember watching it really heavily when it was first being built back in like 06 and 07, the rest of 08 when it came out. I love this game so much. Only thing wrong with it, there's some parts like the tribal stage that are really hard. I mean, some of the games are really, they're not hard, they're just biased in a way that's not really good, even on easy difficulty. Like, in order to, like, later on, like, in the creature stage, to, like, befriend or kill very hard animals, you have to have, like, the highest leveled, like, parts, so you can't, like, build the animals exactly how you want them to be. Tribal stage, you have to wait and, like, pick off a tribe that's attacking you to lower their numbers before you can do a massive assault on them. The space stage, you have to really, really micromanage to like a very extreme extent to like focus on. You can't attack anyone because your technology's not good enough. You can't really terraform plants. You have to mostly focus on plants that are either just perfect to colonize, or do something that's either like straight up too hot, cold, or no atmosphere, too much atmosphere, and lower by one thing before you could do any of the other plants. Those are the only problems with it, but otherwise it's really good. So I will give it a 95. Rigs and Rods is just a racing simulator like BeamNG that I mostly do Monster Jam on, stuff like that. The only problems with it are mostly just with mods not working really properly, like when I work on monster trucks. But that's not necessarily the... Well, actually, that could be the game's fault per se, but there's nothing really else wrong with the game, so... I meant to hit 0 and did 199. It didn't register it, so it did 19. No, 100. Victoria 2 is a grand strategy game that takes place in the Victorian era, where you still continue to build up nations like in EU4, colonize in the scramble of Africa, build up nation states like Germany and Italy, and then be industrialized massively in the Industrial Revolution, and then of course later on set the stage for like World Wars, and eventually Hearts of Iron universe in World War II. This game is really good, although I have many problems in this game that really piss me off. I even did a video of what I think is wrong with the game, and of all the games I've mentioned in this series of these streams where I mentioned the wrongs with them, this game probably has the most wrongs in it of all of them, because I've been that detailed in it. But the game is still so addictively good that mostly overrides all of them. And I know, and the problems I have, I can simply fix with just cheat and all that, which is pretty bad that I have to cheat in order to fix game problems that shouldn't have been there. So because of that, I'm going to have to give it a 98. I want to give it 100, but those big errors, problems I have to go first, because it deserves 100. Alright, Pro Football Simulator. It's the kind of football game I like where I just run teams. That's it. I want to run a franchise and just run teams. This is the shit I want to see in Madden. This lets you create teams limitlessly, pretty much, to the point where you can make your own logo, like literally like on Paint, and export it on there. Pick whatever color you want. You can make the leagues exactly how you want instead of being stuck to 32 teams and all that. You can make the teams exactly how you want. You can name the stadium how you want. You can add the players how you want. Depending on if you're lucky enough, if you know how to do the Excel sheet, you can make your own schedule and all that. This game is largely perfect how I want in a football game. Only problem is, it's still kind of limited too, just like I think I sound Draft Day Sports 21. Where I want them to let me make different like league numbers, since they're still kind of limited to what leagues you could do. I want them to be able to let me add the divisions, like how many teams I want in each division conference, how many teams I want in the playoffs to fix the seeds, because unfortunately, believe it or not, this game a lot of times doesn't have correct seeds too, which is pretty sad. That's probably it, but the game is almost perfect. Sucks no one can buy it anymore, sadly. So I'd give it a 98 too. So The Sims 2, which is the sequel to The Sims, this is my favorite Sims game of all time. Like, everything about it is, like, pretty much perfect. Like, I can't really think of anything wrong with it, so I'm going to give it a perfect 100. And finally, Monster Truck Madness 2, which is my most played game of all time. It's, Monster Truck game. My view of it has gone down, though, a lot over the last several years, since now I'm able to do rigs or rods in terms of adding trucks and tracks and all that. And it's not as realistic anymore. But hey, for a time being, from 1998 when this game came out, until 2010 when rigs and rods became the main thing for monster trucks, this was the monster truck game you go with. This was the one you go with. It held you off for like 12 years. This was the main monster truck game you go for. And it's still very nostalgic for me for doing MTWS on for like 11 years. So I would give it an 88 now. Like, even hell up to like maybe 2 years ago, I'd probably almost give it 100. But now it's my view of it's going to go down massively since. And there we go. After 3 parts, I finally streamed, reviewing all the games I played. Man, that took a long time, as you can see. 300 something games, although I haven't done all of them because there's games out here I haven't done yet because I either haven't played them or are too short enough for me a review to give them. So the games I gave 100 score of it went the wrong way. So all the games I gave 100 are all the main series Pokemon games from Gen 1 through 7. Rigs or Rods, Sims 2, GTA, San Andreas. Yep, all Pokemon. Oh, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. I'm gonna go all the way down here. Wait, where's Game of Life? Because I know I gave Game of Life 100. Yeah, here we go. Game of Life 100. That's all the games I got 100. Just a few of them outside of the Pokemon games. And after that, the highest score after that was Pro Football Simulator and Vicky 2 and BeamNG with 98. I think that was all. Oh, and Battle Tanks Global Assault, that was 98. And then 95, you had Spore, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Pokemon Solar Light, Lunar Dark, Bugs Bunny Lost in Time, and Mario Party Superstars. So yeah, those are all the games in terms of my reviews and all that, in terms of scores. Now, of course, maybe in the future they'll change, maybe get better, maybe get lower, but right now, that's it. That was a lot of work to do. All those games in order of when I played them. Alright, so I hope you all enjoyed this series. If I could maybe find a way where I could just upload to like a site somewhere so you can all see my scores later on in the future as I change them or add other games, that would be nice. Because I don't plan on doing another stream like this in the future of all my games, because that's going to be too much work. Alright, so see you guys next time. And now that this is now finally over with my video game rants, now I might try and get back to going back to my stream list, which still remains. The next game, the first game on the list would be Monster Hunter Stories 2, which I hope to eventually do in the future. So, see you guys next time, and I hope you all enjoyed my reviews of all